Hey babes, welcome to Your Mom's Best Friends podcast, where we come together as a tribe and share the good, the bad, and the what in the actual fuck moments of motherhood, all while building our dream life. I'm your host, Brandy Ververs, mama to two littles, Army veteran, and business enthusiast. I'm obsessed with empowering mamas to live their life with their babies in tow while also building their dreams. If you're ready for a good laugh or to get inspired, grab your cup of coffee because you're in the right place. What is up, you guys? I am so excited to get this episode out to you for a few reasons. The first one being, this is going to be my last sit-down type interview with my girlfriends where we talk about juggling entrepreneurship and motherhood. The podcast is making a slight shift to start leaning into more of the what the fuck moments of motherhood, the dirty, the nitty gritty, the things you should probably only say to your bestie. And so with that being said, I have my girlfriend Roxanne here. She is a dynamic mother of two who juggles the demands of parenthood with her entrepreneurial endeavors. You know, currently Roxanne runs an online gift shop. However, she is entering a new era where she is passionate about creating safe spaces for women to share their ideas, overcome challenges, and achieve their business goals. You know, Roxanne has about 7 years in the entrepreneurial space where she owns a company called Delightfully Dipped, which is very similar to edible arrangements. And, you know, she fills orders for Sherry's Berries. So delicious items. I will definitely link her accounts in the show notes, so check those out. But she's recently making this shift and this transition. And so we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then we are definitely going to talk about, you know, her skin in the game. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. What is up, you guys? I am super excited about today's episode because I am doing a in-person. For those of you that have been following for a while, you know that I have really just done recordings with friends who have joined me on my platform, and this is my first in-person, so I'm really excited. So thank you for doing this with me.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here. It's my first podcast as well, so here we go.
Yeah, give her some grace. She's gonna do amazing, but let's go ahead and jump in today's episode. So today I have my girlfriend Roxanne here with me, and we're gonna kind of just jump into a little bit of her history because she was corporate before.
Yes.
Going entrepreneur. So kind of her reasoning behind going entrepreneur and all of the details in between, motherhood, trying to find the balancing act, all of it. So if you want to go ahead and tell them a little bit about your story as to why you wanted to enter entrepreneurship and kind of what you were doing before.
Yeah, definitely. So about 10 years ago, I decided that I was going to step into the entrepreneur space. But before that, my mom was an entrepreneur and she kind of started from the bottom. And when I say the bottom, I mean like no high school degree, no college degree, not even from this country. And she was kind of the catalyst that gave me the push and the inspiration to be an entrepreneur. And then an opportunity kind of fell into my lap and I ran with it.
Okay, yeah. So she owns Delightfully Dipped. It is based out of Denver, right? And it's those delicious edible arrangements that we have received from time to time. And so that's what she means by kind of just fell into her lap. It wasn't something that you were necessarily looking for at that moment, right? And it was kind of just like the nudge to get you there.
Yeah, it was an opportunity that kind of came my way. I was kind of looking for a sign. You know, we're always looking for like those synchronicities in life. Give me a sign, you know. And it just when the opportunity presented itself, I was like, this is what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and I love that because sometimes, like you said, like we ask for these signs and then the universe is either like, hey, here I am, or, sometimes they're a little bit more subtle, but you kind of got that like knock on the shoulder, like, hey, this could be your out, right?
Yeah, it definitely was. And I was excited to receive it, but not without some fear.
For sure, 100%. And I think all of us who do either corporate or are doing something before we head into entrepreneurship, there's like that, is this going to work out? Is, especially if you're the breadwinner, like, is this going to pay the bills? Like, am I going to be able to do this? And I think we do initially all have that fear. But so when you knew, so you had this history, right? Your mother, your grandmother, like you had all of these examples saying, hey, this is possible, even if sometimes we don't feel like it is, or even if we don't have the track record to say that it is. Right. You kind of had that. So what would you say would be like one of the main things that was like, oh no, like I don't know if I can do this?
Well, the scary part is that when you go into entrepreneurship like head on, I would be leaving my corporate world behind. So that meant like not a stable paycheck. So finances were kind of like the biggest fear that I had.
For sure. And I'm pretty sure that's like a big concern for everyone, right? Is like I said, how are we going to pay the bills with this not, I don't know, like $1,000 every week or whatever it is, right? Yeah. Like that's stable, exactly how much you're going to get paid and what exactly that's going to go to, right? Like, know that like $300 a month from that paycheck is going to pay the electric bill, right? Yeah. So there are those like, oh my gosh, like, how do I know 1 week I'm going to make X amount of dollars versus 1 week it might be a little bit slower, and then I'm not going to make that much or whatever the case may be. Right. And so I totally understand that. You were a mom already, right?
I was at the time already.
Yeah. And so how did that play with being a mom, having those fears, but still taking the leap?
Well, I actually, when I left corporate, having a child was actually, I was pregnant with my second at the time. And that ended up being one of the reasons why I decided to leave because of the stress that I was receiving. My manager and I didn't get along and I just needed the time and flexibility. And I just felt like this was the right move for me and my family at the time.
Okay. So would you say that, even though you had those concerns about entrepreneurship, that those concerns did not outweigh the stress that you were receiving from corporate?
I just had to trust my gut that this was going to work out. In hindsight, I kind of, no one would give the advice to just up and quit and then jump into it.
Right.
But that's what I did at the time,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and me and you are very similar in something like that, right? Like we get this idea and we're like, okay, we're just going to do it. We're going to figure it out along the way. Like everything's going to be like, okay. Right. Like even though we have these like concerns, like we will figure it out.
Right.
Whereas like a lot of people are like tiptoeing or, they just don't go all in, and that's okay. It's whatever you feel like doing, right?
Yeah, it really was. So I was a little scared to do it, but I went full in.
And it worked out. And it worked out. Yeah.
It did. And I would like to caveat, like there was a time where I had to go back to work and I was literally doing both entrepreneurship and work. But, that was a few years into it, but I just, had to do what I had to do. And I'm glad that I ultimately stuck with it because now I can do it full time.
Yeah. And I mean, there are those instances, right, where you had to do what you had to do, but at least you didn't give up, and you're still here. You're working on a bunch of different things, or at least trying to figure it out, right? So one of the questions that I had for you was, what was one of your most pivotal moments in wanting to be an entrepreneur? And I guess we kind of already had talked about that, about you wanting to leave your corporate life. Is there anything else that you would like to add to that?
Well, there's just kind of a knowing inside. Like I knew from a young age that I wanted to own something of my own, like something that I can take pride in. And so that, I feel like if you're given a vision, it's not, it's for a reason.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And so it's just like, this is inside me for a reason.
Yeah.
So,
And we go to all these things, right? All these types of events. And at one of those events, I had heard, if you are given the opportunity to have a vision or a dream or whatever you want to call it, that, I'm called to do this certain thing, it's a little woo, but it's already happening in another like parallel universe, right? Like you are having that vision for a certain reason. And if you continue at that vision or at that goal, whatever it is that it will eventually become your reality.
Right.
So like if you have the vision, you have the gifts to get there. Everything you already have is already inside you. So you just got to keep going with that. So I love that. Let's see. Another question was, what was your biggest concern, I guess, when leaving corporate? I guess we kind of already answered all of these. But so financial aspect.
I mean, that was my biggest one, because I also had to get investments, like to open up the business. So making sure those were in place. And then just kind of counseling from people that I trust, like obviously from my mom, who also was an entrepreneur, and then but just at the end of the day, trusting my gut.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if we've already asked this one. What's a piece of advice you would give someone to take the leap?
Let's see. Because I did it a little bit backwards, if I were to do it again, I would make sure to have a little bit more saved up and maybe even look into some SBA loans. There's other
like grants.
Grants, that could kind of, I just bootstrapped it and everything was just kind of everything that I made just went back into it, and there's just so much easier ways to do it. So do your research, get with the city. They have so many resources.
Yeah, like women in business, new entrepreneurs, all of those types of grants, loans. 100%. I've heard about this.
Yeah, and if you want to like test your ideas, go network, go get around other women in community and talk to them about your ideas. They will give you resources.
Oh, for sure. And that's one of the things. So like actually we're recording this at the House Collective, where it is a place, a co-working space for women to come together, network, get work done. And that's like actually how we met was here. Exactly. And so she found out that I was doing a podcast and I'm looking for guests. And so she was like, sure, like I really want to tell like my story and kind of give women a motivation, right? To be like, even though you think that you may not be worthy or maybe you have like these concerns, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you can do it, right? And so definitely surround yourself with a network of women who not only believe in you and what you have to offer, but who can give you advice and all of that stuff when it comes to.
Yeah, so like this was one opportunity that worked out for me, but previously I had tiptoed in many different industries, MLM, other digital marketing things. So it just wasn't like the first thing I tried was successful. It was definitely like a trial and error thing.
100%.
But if you keep the mindset that if you can't fail because you're just failing forward, and with everything that I tried, I always learned something from
100%.
it. And like that is what created the success now.
For sure. I'm same boat, right? Like I've tried so many types of network marketing businesses. I've learned something from every single one of them. Just my most recent, I wouldn't be podcasting today if it wasn't for me starting that business, right? I've learned so many things about digital marketing, so many things about networking. I went into 2023 with the mindset of, who do I know who knows who I need to know? And that has gotten me so far with this year. Like if it wasn't for what I had learned from my network marketing business in 2022, I wouldn't have done what I did in 2023 to now have set up the things that I want to do for 2024, right? So it's this like ladder of things that, we're learning, and we should never look at it as failures, even if what we're doing right now isn't either where we want it to be or as successful as we want it to be. We're always learning. Exactly. So I love that.
And you and I share that passion of just being multi-passionate about different things. How do you know unless you try?
100%. I would rather fail at something than be like, well, what if that took off? And that's just the mindset that I've always had. Okay, so we have another list of questions that are kind of more mom related, if that's okay. So do you believe that it gets easier as your kids get older when it comes to entrepreneurship?
It does, because if you check out my Instagram, my business page, I literally have my son come with me to work now. And he gets to learn the aspects of entrepreneurship.
Kind of like how you did, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like I'm modeling that for him. And it's like maybe even if he doesn't take that route, like he can totally, it's just up to him.
Yeah.
But at least he knows and he has fun and he can make a little extra money. Like, I'm like, you want to make some more, spending money, come to the kitchen and I'll show
dip
you
some strawberries.
Yeah, dip some strawberries. Who doesn't want to dip strawberries?
Right? Work can be a lot harder, my guy. So I know this was kind of like a really important question for you, but like, how did you balance the two roles?
Yeah, that was tough, especially in the beginning, because I was just starting. I started over essentially because my son was 6 years old when I had my new daughter, and I'm like thrown into motherhood again and starting a new business. But I am a master organizer. You just like time block everything.
Okay.
From this time to this time.
Yeah.
And I schedule out, like you and I are like big on planners.
Yeah.
And I just like make sure to plan it out and then take a breather, It's like if I don't get to XYZ, there's still tomorrow, So just giving yourself grace in that.
For sure. And I think especially, between me and like all my friends, we're list makers, right?
Yeah.
And I say it's a running list because you're not going to get 20 things knocked off on your list. No. And it could be simple things, right? Like empty the dishwasher, the laundry, but then it could be like business related things or personal things. Like I need to go to my nail appointment, hair appointment, right? Whatever it is. Like you have only a certain amount of hours in a day. And so don't let that list of 20 things, that running list, dictate how your day's going.
Yeah, and I just didn't let like entrepreneurship bleed too much into my personal, like so when I got home it was like, a strict turn off list.
Okay.
It's like this is my time to be with my children right now. And that's just a boundary personally that
and that's so good because I feel like that's definitely something that I struggled with because I did work from home and I was raising younger babies, right? My kids are 2 years apart. And so like at that time, they were both home and I was trying to do something on the computer or, post content or whatever. And then I would have a little one run in and be like, Mom, wipe my butt or something. Right. So it was always that, like, I had to just kind of cram it in where I could. Right.
Yeah, and that's how it is sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, just do what works for you.
Yeah. I think my biggest advice would probably be just give yourself grace, whether that's time blocking, organizing and having cutoff times, or whether that's, plug and play where you can.
Right. Because what works for me may not work for you.
100%. And just kind of give yourself grace, you have tomorrow. Yeah. Okay. Let's see, can you share a specific success story or maybe a challenging moment where you experienced while juggling motherhood and your business?
With my son getting older and being in sports, it's like my schedule is so full. From the moment I wake up to 8 o'clock at night when we're getting home and I'm just barely getting dinner started. That's been a challenge, and that's just been getting harder, like as he progresses and, now he's in competitive and, that's more time. And so I feel like that is still something I'm figuring out, but relying on other moms, like, hey, carpool. Like this carpool saves me.
Oh my gosh.
So just like, knowing that it does take a village and knowing that like I can't do everything by myself.
Yeah, for sure. Releasing a little bit of that control. Yeah. And that kind of ties into our previous question, because I think with every stage in motherhood, there's always going to be different challenges, right? And so you may have little kids now and they're hopping in and all you can do is find time to work from home, right? And you never have like a consistent like 2 hours. I mean, maybe you do if they nap consistently, right? But then I'm getting to that phase now where she's doing things competitively and we are going to practices 2 to 3 times a week. And right. So like my schedule is filling up differently, but there's always going to be like those challenges. And I think no matter what season you're in, you just need to give yourself grace because I mean, it's going going to be hard. Motherhood is hard in general.
Mhm.
Entrepreneurship is hard in general. And then if you bleed the two together,
Yeah.
you're going to have some struggles. And it's all how you pivot when those things do come up. I
Yeah,
feel like.
it comes back to just leaning on community, really.
Yeah, for sure.
Because whatever you're going through isn't a unique situation most of the time.
Yeah.
There's somebody out there willing to lend a hand.
I love that because I'm big on community. Let's see, have you faced any stereotypes or biases as a mother in business? And how did you overcome that, if so?
Luckily, I haven't, because our store is mostly run online. I did have a couple run-ins with some, like my landlord, for instance, and I just felt like he treated me differently because I was a woman in business, and so I would say, like, out of the 7-10 years that I've been running this, that was the only instance that really rubbed me the wrong way.
Okay.
He just spoke to me way differently than he did to the other men in my professional kitchen.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Let's see. So this kind of ties in. What role has network and building relationships played in your journey as a mompreneur?
I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
It's huge because entrepreneurship can be a lonely journey.
It can be.
It really can, because you're over here working on your dreams, and we're working in the nooks and crannies of our time.
Yeah.
And then balancing it with family. It's like, okay, when do I have time to go out, make friends? But this year, I definitely made the push to, like, okay, I need to get back into community.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful.
Yeah. Well, and I think when you enter communities like this, you don't go really necessarily in it looking for friends, but then you come out of it with so much more, right? Like, so for instance, like I spend a couple hours here, right? And I am talking to Sasha, one of the co-owners, and we're building all of these friendships. Like, we were just together this past weekend at an event. Like, you reoccurring see these people, and you start to build those friendships. Whereas, like I said, it might have not started out that way. Maybe it started out as just like networking and maybe mentorship, right? But then you start seeing these people so often that it turns into a little bit more.
Yeah. Friendships. And the cool thing about networking too is just like, you don't know they may have a different perspective, is what I'm trying to say. So, like, you may present what I'm looking for this, and they're like, actually, what if you tried this, or I have a person for that. It's just like just the connection.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so one last question that I have, and then we can go ahead and turn it over to you. What impact do you hope to make through your business, and maybe inspire other moms to achieve?
That it's possible. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Just like knowing that if I had this vision and I'm worthy of, acting on it. And I feel like it could be so much bigger than it is now. So it's like every year I learn something new.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, it's just growing. But, recently I've been wanting to take a pivot, and that feels a little bit scary because it's like starting something new. Yeah. So I just feel like with this experience that I have, that I'm like inviting other women to come along the journey. It's like, hey, you may be starting out, you may be 2 years, 3 years into it, but, how can I help?
Yeah. And so earlier we had talked about, that she has this successful business and has had it for how long now?
7 years.
7 years. And she is now wanting to create something else. Like, yes, she's using her skin in the game as an entrepreneur from her Delightfully Dipped business, but now she's wanting to pivot and show other women that you are worthy and that this is possible. And I think that's going to be like the biggest message from this episode, is that you may have concerns, but lean on your community, trust your gut, and you can do it.
Yeah, definitely. Ask me questions. I'm an open book from my journey to get to here. So
yeah. So to wrap this up, or do you have anything else to say?
Mostly just, if you have an idea, you are worthy of taking pursuit of that idea. If it's on your heart, go ahead and start pursuing it because it's there for a reason.
Yes, 100% agree. So if people do have questions or maybe they want to order some fruit arrangements, where can they find you?
Yeah, my personal Instagram is roxanne.gorham, Gorham. And then my site is delightfullydipped.com.
And I will definitely put those in the show notes so that way you guys can just have easy access to it. Like she said, she's an open book. She's answer any questions that you may have. And you guys already know that about me. If there's anything that you have questions about, definitely feel free to reach out. If you want to be a guest like Roxanne, definitely feel free. We can go ahead and get you on the schedule. But thank you so much for being here and sharing your story.
Thank you so much.
Of course. All right.
All right, mamas, that's what I have for you on today's episode. If you've liked what you've heard, please tag me on your Instagram stories at Brandy Ververs. That way we can continue to grow and empower more mamas to live their best life. See you next time.